Hey, what's going on? It's your boy Brandon Berg. I definitely want to just really get on here real quick. I'm gonna try to make a quick video because I need to make a quick video. Okay, as you know, Texas, Florida got imposes some travel restrictions towards Louisiana. Not just Louisiana, but places like in New York, Jersey, Connecticut, I think California. Um, but they mainly put their focus really towards Louisiana. That was really originally was going to be targeted for New Orleans, but on a racial notion, it was too obvious, and I think they were called out on it. So they just imposed it on the entire state of Louisiana. Now I will say this: Louisiana do have a very high number of cases as well as high numbers of deaths. It's not like New York or California or nothing like that. Those two states have like monstrous numbers of cases and deaths. So it's nothing like that type of level of devastation, but it's still devastation in the way of just people suffering on and towards it. I think they have like over 18,000 cases. Texas got over 10,000 cases. Florida got over 16,000 cases. The death count, I think Louisiana got the highest of all three. They got 700. Um, I think Florida got close to 370. So they're approaching to 400 territory, and Texas got I think 199, but they're basically approaching the 200 mark. Um, all these are devastating numbers when you look at of outbreak and epidemic and people catching this lethal virus and dying. So that's always a devastating to see these numbers. But I think it is. I think it is. Uh, there's posing a gang up on a single estate, especially as this state's majority is black. It's a black state. Majority, I think, is over 35 to 40% of the population is black. So it's a roughly almost close to a black majority state. Um, while you have these other two states, not really, that have very significant numbers of Latino Hispanic population and white that is kind of in a way ganging up on the state of Louisiana with their posing of their travel restrictions, forced quarantine for about 14 days, and that is strictly really going towards Louisiana. Now, I think also too you got to think of a racial um, jest to it. As is this going to be significantly targeting black people coming from Louisiana? So that's definitely going to be should be a high rate of concern as well. But I just really, like I said, I really didn't want to really talk about the restrictions. I did. I just want to talk a little bit of the numbers. But even though Texas numbers was absolutely actually is climbing, like Florida's climbing, but you gotta understand, Texas never really had official shelter in place um, order for the statewide. Practically the people can venture out in almost of a mass grouping and gathering in a way. I think Government Abbott just put the official notice of closing all state parks. As you know, hundreds of people, maybe thousands of people, um, was basically in these state parks doing their exercising, doing sightseeing or doing some family time or picnicking, and just someone was having gatherings as well, um, everywhere in Texas. And this is the thing is that there's an incompetence in there, and there's an idiocy in there, and there's a stubbornness as well when you think about it. We're 4 weeks into the pandemic, and you're now just closing state parks that thousands, tens of thousands of people, maybe hundreds of thousands of people participated in exercising. Now, don't get me wrong; they were, like I said, I went to the park myself, so I seen people that were covered up. Now, not everyone was covered up, but there were people that's covered up, um, making sure they protect themselves and others. But like I said, you have tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people in these parks doing their exercise. And this is 4 weeks into the pandemic. So there's a lot of stubbornness, a lot of incompetence in there. Um, and I think they did it during Easter because they know it's a holiday. People is going to want to be in gathering group. So, but the best way to be gathering in some type of grouping is to go out in the park. So you got that notion of that. So it's just like I said, just the incompetence of the leadership in Texas to finally issue an order. But closing the park really should be a shelter in place, and that's one thing that Texas never had officially is a shelter in place. Now Louisiana got one, Florida got one. A lot of states have shelter in place, but Texas. So, and Jason Black, shout out to him. He actually pointed that out. And me being in Texas, I'm aware of that. 'Cause I live here. I live in Texas. I live in Houston. So, um, it's just the incompetence of that. You're 4 weeks into the pandemic, and you're finally just now want to close down state parks. That just don't really make sense to me. Um, but also too, it's just Texas need to really um, focus on themselves instead of trying to focus on another state. Um, Even though, like I said, they got the highest. A lot of people blame it because of Mardi Gras. I'll tell anybody, the majority of the people that actually participate in Mardi Gras is people from outside the state, not the actual local themselves, or even people within the state. They don't really participate in Mardi Gras like that. Some do, but there's more of a neighborhood or communal thing they do. But in the actual appeal of Mardi Gras, that's more of a more of an international. That's more national, and even in a way somewhat international because you got a lot of people from outside the country or other parts of the country that's coming down there. Same way like spring break and and the road and the beaches in Florida. You have a lot of people, like especially if it's spring break, you got people coming from everywhere. Not intentionally just from Florida, but throughout the East Coast or some parts of the Midwest. So there's just some things to take that in consideration. How Florida is in the midst of what they are, and with Texas in the midst of what they are. Um, so, like I said, many Texans do go to Mardi Gras. So, like I said, you got people from all parts of the world. This is before the federal government stepped in and did the actual shutdown of the economy. This is actually Mardi Gras was kind of during the outbreak and the epidemic, but it wasn't in the pandemic stage. So that's one thing I would always try to remind people about Mardi Gras. It wasn't, Mardi Gras wasn't during the pandemic. It was actually, it was kind of already done, um, you know, before the pandemic, or they shut it down when the CDC announced there was a pandemic, especially coming out the United States. So that was just some things. That was a breakdown of both federal and the states as a whole, as well as some stubbornness and ignorance of the people as well from kept gathering in large, massive groups and numbers. So that's just really what it is. But like I said, for the parks, for Texas Albert to issue this now is to me is a complete idiocy. So That's really what I really want to get on here for, and I'll get with you guys soon. All right, one.